Oh, hello. Look who's here.
Hi,
It's Rachel and me.
host Enrico.
Mm-hmm. Questa è talking di people from. So, today, I encourage you, Beworden like no one's watching, and sentence me in your lingual bundles. I'm here to hear just as I'm here to talk. I'm here to listen just as I'm here to walk. I'm here to spell just as I'm here to smell. So take full advantage of that today, friends. It's a day's live stream is devoted towards bewordening and sentencing and other such one such as. I'm a little tired. I didn't get a lot of sleep recently, so I'm a little scattered. That's not unusual, but what is unusual? Who knows? Nobody does. Certainly, I don't. I talked about having a plan today at some point, but I never actually made a plan.
Well, we were supposed to get propane for the
Yes, for
torch.
Porch, indeed.
Yes, I do remember that on the list.
I did make a bit of a list. I put on the list get propane and also work on the ham bone video.
Yes, that's right.
Didn't even look at that yet.
Yes.
And I think it's on our plate coming up sometime today, tomorrow, whatever. Is we got a couple of things that are ready for me to make videos that I'm just waiting on our video making. So there's those things to do. But sometimes one has to be realistic about one's level of effectiveness in a given moment.
Especially for sevens.
And currently, I would say my level of effectiveness is low.
My level of effectiveness is moderate.
Yeah, yours pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Pretty effective.
Thank you.
You're like, what's a girl's name that starts with F? Like EF. Effany?
Effany?
Yeah.
Emily.
You're an efficient
my mom's
Effany.
name. Effany is my official name?
When you're efficient, you turn into an efficient Effany.
Aww, thanks, baby.
Effany is a cross between Bethany and Tiffany without the T or the B.
Do I have to remember that?
Yes, and it's spelled with an I.
No.
It's also spelled with an I, but not at the end. That's an extra tricky clue.
So I have a Y.
Effany. You have a Y, but it's also spelled with an I. So where in that name is the I? Effany. Okay, well, it must be before the N. EFIN.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
FNINY.
That's what I was thinking.
But yeah, so that
sandwiched in there.
I guess it'd be more unusual if we spelled with two Y's. That'd be the most unusual way to spell Effany.
Oh my gosh.
What were you thinking about last time? I was talking to you about something. I can't remember. What happens is I seem to have all these thoughts.
Mark Twain and Abe Lincoln talking?
We did talk about that. But I know what I wanted to talk about somewhat is Countess's bullshit comments.
Oh. Yeah.
So
is there a possibility of her being racial hater?
I don't know, but what I was actually thinking, these words she put there are indicative of somewhat of what polar NI might look like. because, for example, in her assessment of why she's an ENTJ, what is the one vector that she completely ignores? If you ask somebody to come up with 5, 6 reasons why they're an ENTJ and they're making an effort to come up with those reasons, no problem. They'll come up with 5 or 6 reasons for it. It may not be good reasons, but they may make some sort of sense. So you got to look at what kind of reason they're providing you. And if they're providing like weak ass links to type descriptions, even though they've been around my channel long enough to know that that's not a good way to type somebody.
Yeah.
Then they clearly aren't paying attention to what's determinant in the question. So, okay, it's true, like, your work schedule may match up with an ENTJ. The description of an ENTJ. Well, I mean, the thing was, look at this. I knew I was an ENTJ. I read this type description of ENTJ, and it matches me perfectly. It's like, okay, see, you must be antipolar, because that's not the determinant factor here. And in fact, the people who resist, it made me think, the people who fight against my typology system, or who say, for example, that, well, like for example, oh, well, I'm a Mia in socionics, but I'm a Mia in MBTI. Or generally say, well, you take a little bit from everything because you take what you like, you leave the rest behind. They're misunderstanding what we're trying to do here. We are not trying. Can you imagine if astronomers took this approach to things? So, like you'd say,
I'm so sorry.
You're like, it's fine. You're like, Mercury's in retrograde right now.
It is.
And they go, no, it's not. It's the 4th planet from the sun. And you're like, what do you mean? It's not the 4th planet.
That's not what we're talking about.
No. Look, there's this other guy, astronomer Joe over here. He defines Mercury as the 4th planet from the sun. He's got some really creative ideas about why the solar system is actually totally different than what it looks like. So, I take the ideas that I think are useful from different places. I think from, like Smith, he tells me that Mercury's 4th from the sun. But I also believe Johnson, who argues the displacement theory of why he's in the 6th, it's actually 6th from the sun. Okay. No, you don't get to just again choose what sounds like today's hot menu item.
Right.
You're trying to solve an actual problem here.
It's not a cafeteria.
Yeah, it's also not like Catholicism. With Catholicism, there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be able to pick and choose whatever you want, because after all, it's magical thinking. Right. It is not justified with logic.
Those Catholics. I was raised Catholic. I used to draw in my Sunday school book because I'd be like so upset being there on a Sunday. I'm already in school 5 days a week. You're going to take my Sunday, and I have to wake up early for it too. So I would make inappropriate statements in the book.
You're like, hey, everybody, can you stop oppressing me, please?
Yeah.
No, really, actually, you are kind of.
And luckily, there was this kid. His name was Teddy Matozo, and unfortunately, he's passed. But when we were younger, it always went by the last name. So like A to, I guess, maybe K would be in one class, and then the K through, I think, maybe M.
Are you broken or something, Skyler? Is it working? Sorry.
That's okay.
I see your messages. If you're not sure if I see them, I do see them. I see it just eats away a most harmless message.
I was on top chat.
Oh, okay, right. Let me put it on the Mia. Now I've got it on the Mia time now. Mia time now. Mia time now. Now I've got it on the Mia time now. Mia, 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 mia. Great song. So what we're doing here is we're fielding questions. We're pontificating. We're positing thoughts. We're sharing our wisdom. We're doing a little wisdom share. Today I'm letting people get a piece of my miracle gaze for the low price of $20. Now, if you ever gotten miracle gaze by Bracco, you know it can be really expensive to have somebody look at you professionally. A professional person who does this professionally, who looks at people for money. They really got.
Yeah. And host Eric really loves him when he says his name like 3 times wrong.
Bracco is over
Yeah,
there?
he called him Blanco once.
You know who Blanco was from Street Fighter, right?
Oh,
He was the Brazilian guy who rolled up in an old ball.
Ah.
Good old Blanco.
Good old Blanco.
Can't go wrong with Blanco.
Blanca.
Okay. Blanco, whatever. This person's name is actually Blacko. No,
Bracco. See?
Blanca. This guy wrote, "You stop with your nonstop profanity? My tender ears.
Really?
My tender ears
What's up?
are reddening with the shame of your verbal sins, defiling and doing their dirty business in my eardrums."
What happened?
Don't do your dirty business in my eardrums, Kagir. It's fine if I do it. But I have good reason. Obama's an ENTP. I am sorry to say. I'm not proud of that. Not proud of being the same type as Obama. I don't. I have to admit, like, if somebody were to say, look, you ENTPs had your shot, and you give us Obama, I'd have to be like,
no? Yeah, but there's that one. Remember that clip I showed you? The Obama phone woman?
Obama phone woman?
Yeah.
Yeah, what about her?
I mean, people still love Obama.
But I don't love Obama.
He's gonna do more.
Your heave-hos weren't all that offensive, and it just hides it. Yeah, we don't want to sweep dirty words under the rug, YouTube, okay? And Skagir's got a point, YouTube.
You are right, Skagir. And because I could definitely curse. I curse quite a bit.
Well, this is also a live stream dedicated to bewordening. To bewordening and sentencing people and the truths of their discourse. Today, Skagir, you come forth to celebrate your ascension, to bewordment and sentencement in this big pile of meanings. Isn't the goal of a politician to appear like an intuitive extrovert? I mean, if that's their goal, then they don't have no business being in politics. The goal of a politician should be to do a good job of to better the country's citizen democracy by being a citizen who serves the country for 4 years. That should be
serves the country.
That should be that's the only motivation.
Yeah.
That's the only goal a politician should have. They're going to be president or something. Is my goal is to improve the citizen democracy over the course of the 4 years that I served the country. Fair enough. I didn't go get drafted or go to the military or anything. They're going to pay me not terribly. So, fine. I'll do it. One term. I'm not going to do 2 terms. I got other shit to do. No more than 2 profane words okay. Let's not go crazy, guys. No more than 2 profane words in a clause or phrase or sentence. So let's say your sentence is comprised of 8 different phrases and clauses. Then that's 16 total profane words is your maximum. I think that's a reasonably doable limit. When running, so are you saying you mean things when you're running, or are you saying I'm mean when I'm running? Or are you saying that you approach the mean more closely when you're running? I don't understand, Broccoli Todd.
Live chat loses all its meaning when I can't swear all the fucking hell I want.
Oh, running for political office. Oh, of course. I didn't think about it like that. I was thinking about running down the street. So you're asking a question. Oh, is it the goal of the politician to appear? Well, when they're running, most people who run for political office probably at some point in their decision to become a politician have at least some idealism and are thinking, okay, I can do a better job than these fools or something like that. It certainly is plausible that I would say the more wrong the person is about stuff, the more susceptible they're going to generally be to corruption. Because if you're believing things that don't make any sense, then there's no consequence when you change your belief because you're not losing any total amount of you're not losing any justifications. If you don't care about justifications at all, then you don't care about ethical justifications either. So you're more likely to be corrupt.
Hey, into your morning. I'm only saying more. It's afternoon here.
I'd say it's not blatant. Okay, it's medium blatant. What's medium? What's a good word for medium blatant? There's not really any word. Because, like, if you're doing something surreptitiously, like it is very secretive or something, versus very blatant, very obvious. But what's between blatant and secretive? Haphazardly hiding, I guess,
Yeah,
half-assedly is like
half-baked.
Secrecy theater. I don't think that really exists, secrecy theater. Security theater, like to protect your own secrecy might, but actual like pretending to be secretive about something because you want to maintain an appearance that you're being secretive.
I want to use it.
You want to use what?
Half-baked.
I don't.
Half-baked idea.
That's a terrible idea, Skyger. I don't want that because I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube. YouTube already gets me in trouble for no reason when I totally don't deserve it. Almost every single. True. There's been one time that I got in trouble, which was the morning I got for that CHS video, that I said, "Hey, why are you getting me in trouble?" They didn't side with me eventually. Only one time I didn't appeal that one. I think I actually did technically appeal it, but one time was I in the wrong and they were right. I mean, I was in agreement with them though. Yes, that violates your terms of service. All the other times, it's just been totally wrong. Totally, teotally totally wrong.
Yeah. I seen them.
That's a lot of totally. That's a lot of totally. That's a lot of totallys. So I did want to talk a little bit more about this kind of thing. So just because another example of antipolar is Countess said that Rachel's getting another haircut or a short haircut or something was indicative of mania. Mm-hmm. But of course, reality is not nearly that exciting. It's that I tried to cut her hair into a what we call a page boy cut, and then I tried to fix it, but I made it worse, and it was all janky looking. Then Rachel tried to fix it, and she had it kind of fixed, but she still wasn't happy with it. Tried to fix it a little bit more, and then she had it all really janky, and then we're just like, okay, we have to go to this barber shop now. The two of us have successfly fucked up your whole head. So that's why she went to the barber shop, because why are we cutting her own hair? Why am I and she cutting her hair? Because of the COVID shit, But we could make an appointment at the barber shop, and we did.
Like it. I really like it. Like I have.
It's great. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I had to
but but
fix a cut. I'd rather get it like this.
The takeaway from it is this: if anybody were to be watching, anybody intelligent watching the channel through those haircuts, would conclude that even if it is so, that a lot of times, if somebody has like wild changes of their hair, that can represent maybe manic episode. Maybe there is some sort of correlation like that. But to conclude that based on the data that's available now, or the last, so about the haircuts, that's what it is in this case, is being completely bewildered when it comes to what's a factor that's really muted in a given situation and which factor is really determinate in a given situation. That's NI. So, and of course, one of the consequences of this is how do you know you're a good typologist? You have a fairly decent sized set of people who disagree with you about their type because you've typed them as ISTJ, ESTJ, ISTJ, let's say that, ISFP, or ESFP.
Hey, David Grand M.
So basically, if you type anybody, ISTJ, ESTJ, ESFP, ISFP, they are going to be an unhappy client who will leave the conversation. Well, I'm sorry, I just don't agree with you. You're basically unconvinced. Because if you are an ESFP, ISFP, ESTJ, ISTJ, who is interested in typology for whatever reason, you believe yourself to be an intuitive. And the only reason you want to get typed is for me to verify that for you so that you can go around and tell people that and have a very solid warrant about it. So ESFPs, ISFPs, ESTJs, ISTJs, they are going to be looking for an appeal to authority kind of justification. So if they come here and they say, okay, well, Eric's pretty big in the typology community. If he types me as Mia, then everybody will accept it. So if I think I'm an INFJ and I want to be able to say that with more confidence and prove to people that I'm an INFJ, then I'll get Eric to type me. And he'll type me as INFJ, and I'll be able to say it to people. That's what they come in thinking. But they don't want to be told, actually, you're an ESFP. Nobody wants to be told that. Or actually, you're an ISTJ, not an INTJ. Nobody wants to hear that. Because if they're into typology, then like everything in typology is infused with ridiculous romantic notions and bullshit praise about intuitives and reductive and not very flattering descriptions of sensors.
Even though they're the ones who get shit done. Thank you, David. I really appreciate that. I'm glad. That's very nice. I'm glad you think so. And that's what Isaiah Brood was saying last night in the chat, that he lives in a house with like mostly intuitives, and he's like, it's not all cracked up as you think it would be. And I agree. When I was in the house with just my dad, me, and my brother, like there were like unfinished projects everywhere. Everywhere.
What's the difference between INTP intuition and INFJ intuition? What's the double number versus INFJ number? INTP intuition is responsive. Because when an INTP is delivering NI, it's because their NE is not working for whatever the circumstance is. So a lot of times with INTPs, it links in with the FE and the fourth. They want to be socially successful, and so they want to provide some utility to people. But if they get too any wordy, then people find that either requires too much of them or off-putting or something. So instead of giving any in the second slot, lots of circumstances they probably don't necessarily even vocalize a lot of the NE before they decide to go, fuck it, I'll give them some NI. And then they, I think these are good people to ask for advice. They're probably the best people to ask for advice because they've got demonstrative NI. They countervalue it towards themselves, but they have this weird thing that they also countervalue when other people don't respect their NI. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a weird combination there. But they're quite they're generally quite happy to provide advice. ISPs like to provide help when asked. They like to be sought to have their expertise milked like information cow.
Yeah, I would say that too. I agree with everything you said. They're very good with advice. Even before you said it, I was thinking, INTPs are people you can go to when you are looking for advice.
Of course, they tend to ask advice occasionally, but it's almost always the same piece of advice. What can I do about actually polar? What can I do about my procrastination? How can I get more stuff done? It's same question, phrased slightly differently in different situations. Where's I gotta get a soda or something. I'm super thirsty.
Can you give me a squirt?
I can get you a squirt.
Thanks, Ray. That's what she said. Is INTP good with ENFJ? That's a good question. I like giving advice if it requires more than half a brain cell to figure it out. If someone asks me the same vapid question for a billion times, I'll just go away. Yeah, I don't like when people come to me with their problems over and over again and don't ask for my advice. That's cute. Like, holy shit, Mom, how many times did I tell you to write down your damn password down, you dunce? That sounds so INTP. What's my password?
The joke, the quality joke there is to start with someone in a context that, and then reveal that your example is mom. That's really,
right.
That's good. That's good. That's good bewordment.
Good
bewordment.
That
good
is good bewordment.
Mm-hmm.
This guy knows. He uses that word, bewordment. Hi, Curious Kyra. How have you been? How's piano playing going? I get on well with ENFP, but I like the idea of an ENTP woman, says England here.
I want to give a little bit more bewordment props to Horsemumbler in this instance because just look what he did here. It's really quite lovely. He,
See, they're good with advice.
Did he remove it? Oh no, this one. No. Yeah, it's right here. If the ENFJ has a soul, then maybe. So no. And the brilliant thing, of course, is the maybe, because that makes the no actually logically inferred from the sentence rather than just the alternative to the yes. It would be incorrect if he had said, if the ENFJ has a soul, then yes. So no. That would be incorrect because you can't conclude no from an ENFJ. Yes, it could be maybe. But maybe no, then yeah, that's good. I like that.
I'm doing well, just taking a break from practicing. Going to get back into it a little bit. Cool.
Practicing what? The piano?
Yeah. I asked.
Oh, cool. Piano, piano, piano. Everybody likes a piano.
Yeah.
Very
Piano's one of my
sophisticated.
favorite
I agree. It
instruments.
makes her look like a fancy lady.
Who said that?
Correct. It's because
Oh,
she
thanks.
got the idea for the haircut, or she got the picture that the lady looked at
Yep.
to know what haircut to give her.
Yeah, I get a little nutty when it comes with hair, and with people doing with hair cutters, but like Eric assured me that the woman, like, he's been going to her for years. His dad goes to her for years. Like, that she really knows what she's doing, but I can't explain what I want unless I have a picture of it. And I know that usually hairdressers are very visual people. So I printed out a bunch of pictures of the front, back, and side of the haircut that I wanted. And the woman did a great job. I mean, like, really. She knew I was nervous too because, it's shortcut, and I have. She said, She's right. She's right. She's like, you have thin hair, so you should put some like putty in it. But I think I'll be fine without the putty.
Putty in your
Yeah,
hair.
I don't
Putty?
like gel, like wax. I don't think I do really. But she's like, oh, you have thin hair, but I have a lot of it, and when it's wet, it looks like it's thinner than it actually is. So then people cut it and my hair poofs out and they're like, oh, what did I just do? But there, they cut their hair dry. So she knew what she was working with. And she made me feel comfortable by making me watch Mexican soap operas, which were really funny.
Well, I guess if one Keanu is 5 Keanu's, how many Keanu's are there in total? 6?
Where?
6, I would say. But it could be 5 and 5 1/5 of Keanu.
Oh, there's 25. It's because of the Matrix or Speed. Speed and the Matrix, in both in one movie.
So you mean there are currently 5 Keanu's? Each Keanu has 5 Keanu's? I thought there was currently 1 Keanu. If one Keanu has 5 Keanu's, and that's a total of 6.
Oh, that's just.
You could just say it's a total of 1 Keanu who's holding a bag full of 5 Keanu's.
Just keep saying Keanu over and over again is so funny.
Hey, Horse Mumbler, that sounds like some NTP living there.
Same old, doing the wordage and the FE well, but neglecting work and starving myself out of laziness.
Such an accurate self-diagnosis.
Yeah.
Some days, Horse Mumbler, I think it might be possible that INTPs are even more objective than me. Every once in a while.
I want to say that you're starving yourself out of laziness. I really associate with, because if it weren't for Eric making us burgers today, I would have just been eating chips and probably popcorn, and that would have been my meal.
And it's not so much out of laziness either, Horse Mumbler. It's more like out of avoiding the beginning of that task.
For me?
For anybody. It's more like,
yeah,
you're not being lazy, you're just postponing the beginning of that task because it sounds unpleasant.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear you're stoned into here.
Well, you didn't say that last part, Sky Gear. You didn't say and so forth. You just said one time.
Does anyone remember Sad Keanu? They made figurines about him. Sad Keanu.
Eric, some say the ISPs are the ones who say "I told you so" when they see a situation come far off. Are the ISPs more accurate, consistently understanding their gut feelings? Well, I think INTPs are more likely to say "I told you so." because
sometimes
that's
even with the haircut, you were like, I told you in the beginning we should have gone, but I thought that we could handle it.
I didn't say I told you so about the haircut.
No, well, you did. You were like, I did. I did mention it to you that we can go.
Oh, okay. So the answer is INFJ probably has more, or at least as many experiences, assuming the same amount of social engagement in general between the INFP and the INFJ, then the INFJ is probably going to have more experience of having their advice ignored. Whereas the INTP is going to be more likely to sort of give more advice that says it has a sign on it that says I'm advice, whereas INFJ is likely to ask a few probing questions, leading questions.
I'm a little, I do go by questions. I do say ask why a lot. Sakiana was eating by himself, but also he was feeding the pigeons at the same time. It was like this moment captured in time.
How do we know he was sad?
Because he looks so sad.
Did he?
He's like this. Like, and we don't know. We actually don't know if he was sad. We actually don't know.
Think about my dad, right?
Yeah.
Like he always looks like he came home and he caught me. He found that shit I put on his pillow. I went shit right on top of his pillow, and now I'm about to get it. That's what his face looks like.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Son. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, we're having that picnic today, remember? You fool me all the time.
He probably isn't sad. He's supposed to be one of the nicest guys in Hollywood. Young Liza Minnelli. I'll take that as a compliment.
Okay, but see, look, the problem with this problem is when it comes to Keanu, 6s are in base 12 and 5s are in base 10. So it actually, if you add them together, it equals 10. In
so
base 10. 10 in base 10 or 12 in base 12.
I would love him to join the chat. That would be just so great. He would be able to. Then do those 25 Keanu have their own Keanu?
No, and do you mean that's 25? Is that 25 in base 10 or base 12? Because with 25 in base 12, it's kind of just like 21 in base 10. Admiring a leaf bug. I do that a lot.
Me? You?
Yeah, I mean, metaphorically. I spend a lot of time thinking about how I'm going to be in my spiritual chrysalis one day, hanging upside down from a leaf. And when I come out, I'm going to be enlightened like the Buddha.
Thank you, Eckhart Tolle.
Mm-hmm.
Swear that's the advice he gives.
I have gotten, I have made the full rounds. First, I went to Eckhart Tolle, and he filled my ears with mushy pseudo-truths. And I was so, boom, you're blowing my mind.
Okay.
And then I went to Benny Hinn.
Exactly.
I went to Benny Hinn, and he healed me with the Lord's power. You are healed. And I fell over. It was wonderful.
You go to like Osho and Tia Swan.
Osho, I went to Osho, who told me the fastest way to run is to crawl very slowly. Yeah, that's your formula there, isn't it, Osho? Just say completely contradictory things.
Yes.
And then
exactly.
wait for people to go, ooh.
I watched this Osho. So Osho has gatherings and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of culty. And one of my coworkers at Trader Joe's really was into Osho. So I was like, wow, he seems so calm and enlightened. he must really know something. So I checked it out, and what I saw were like all these like people at a pool party. It looked like a splish splash, like
Blood splash splash party.
yeah,
Mhm.
with like babies and like wife swapping and kid swapping and everyone just splish splashing in the pools and the and slide. It was like so weird. I was like, this guy's not enlightened. He just doesn't give a shit about most stuff.
He just realizes that, you know, there's a certain kind of woman that
Kid
is.
swapping.
There's a certain kind of woman though who is very susceptible to the spiritual guru's shit, right?
Right.
And she always talks the same way. The spiritual guru may come across this way, that way, whatever. The woman is. So, Guru Wonkers is an amazing presence. You feel the energy. It is so powerful. You talk like that, you know.
Shy T, that is definitely a good emoji to use for all that stuff. Yeah, Osho is he's a creep. Legit.
He is an enemy of purposeful discourse. He purposefully just gets anything that could possibly be like validated anyway and just eliminates it from the thing entirely. I'm just saying the best way to quench your thirst is to die in the desert with no liquid.
Okay, so like I think so I'm gonna do this. It starts with Oprah. Here's the line. Here's a sequence of like the hierarchy of like people like that. It starts with Oprah.
The Legion of Doom of Gurus.
It starts with Oprah because she introduced everyone to Eckhart Tolle.
She's the Lex Luthor of the Legion of Doom of Gurus. Yep.
So then there's Eckhart Tolle, who would you say is next?
I mean, as far as like big
Bracco?
I mean, in the real world, a couple of big guru people are Joel. I've seen it or not? No, the guy who's a preacher. No, the preacher guy. Who?
Yes, Joel
something. He's a Texas preacher, I think.
Yeah, he's on
TV.
Yeah, yes.
And when you have galls in you, then you can do amazing things. Amazing. And when I look and I see the people who brought Christ into their life, what I see are people who can do amazing things. Oh my God, I turned Mexican. Oh my God. What happened to me?
Joel Osteen.
Joel
That's
Osteen.
That's him. Yeah. Yes. You're very Mexican today, aren't you, Derek?
More than me, I think what I was just doing. You're coming back. I was doing a perfect imitation of Joel Osteen, right?
You were.
But apparently, a perfect imitation of Joel Osteen imitates somebody who periodically turns Mexican. He must be transracial. He hasn't talked about it before. Thanks, David Grandam.
Yeah, thanks, David Grandam.
You're a pal.
He is funny.
I'm looking at my seat right here.
Let's get that camera looking at you.
Okay, sure. So let me show you the kitchen. Over here, the kitchen area. It's not a huge kitchen. It's cozy. It's fun. It's a perfect nook. This is the bathroom as well as the kitchen. What do you mean it's the bathroom as well as the kitchen? Well, this sink works equally well for preparing food, washing your hands, peeing, or defecating. You want to poop in the sink? I don't want anything. I'm just telling you what it could be used for. I'm just a helpful real estate agent.
I don't want anything. That's such an eat it till you feel the thing to say. I just want you to make a choice.
I just wanted you to really have a chance to appreciate the quality of this nook.
It's such a nice nook. I like the nook enough to fly here to see it.
That's that, and you know, at the time she did say, "Hey, Eric, remember, we'll see how it goes when I get there, but we're in agreement, right? I'm primarily flying there to see your kitchen nook.
Yes, that's exactly why.
So don't get your hopes up or anything."
A laboratory sink in the kitchen. Nice to laugh during these times.
Yeah. Life's a funny thing.
I say.
Life presents a variety of challenges, pseudo challenges, get out of challenge free cards, and and just normal stuff that juxtaposes those special things. No, it's not a lavatory sink in the kitchen. It's a toilet. Well, it's a sink that's functioning as a toilet as well as a sink. It's a dual purpose sink. It's a sinklet or a toy ink.
It's great.
What up, lawnmower? What's up, lawnmower? How are you doing today? You'll get this Christian sounding song.
I hope you are merry and gay.
With this very Christian sounding song. Can someone care about the result if they ignore the process? Yes, absolutely. In fact, if they care about the result, then they probably do not care very much about the process. If they care a lot about the process, then they probably don't prioritize the result very much.
Also, I think I have a feeling that INFJs change their heart a lot.
Change their heart?
Their hair.
Oh, their hair. I see. Well,
do you have any more gum? Do you?
I didn't have any one gum.
I know.
More gum would imply that I had some gum to begin with.
I know. I'm sorry. I asked the wrong person.
I haven't had gum in over 4 millennia. That's 4,000 years. That's the last time I had gum. It was old kind of gum. Not the kind they have today. It's a little different.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm.
Was it more like tacky, chewy?
Well, they didn't really get the artificial watermelon flavor down yet. So they had watermelon, but it pretty much just tasted like strawberry.
That's good. I like strawberry.
Strawberry's fine. Wait, so are 5 Keanu's mowing the lawn? What if 5 chairs are mowing the lawn? If 5 chairs equal 5 mowed lawns, and 5 mowed lawns equal 1 unmowed lawn if the 5 mowed lawns were mowed by Keanu, and 2 unmowed lawns if the 5 unmowed lawns were not mowed by Keanu.
I want to know how many wings it takes to put on Keanu, because they in the news they like say that Keanu is a living angel. Isn't that fucking great? He's helped people, like he's known for picking people up like who walk on the side of the street and like getting them jobs and stuff, and there's this like black actress who basically like owes Octavia Spencer. She was living out of her car, and Keanu was driving his motorcycle down the road and he saw her broken down car and gave her a lift to an audition. She got the audition and like fucking now Octavia Spencer's like I think she got an Emmy or a Golden Globe, something like that. So they call him a literal angel. Yeah. Isn't that nice?
That is really nice.
He does that a lot. Like he's known for that. He'll like pay for like people's like bills and stuff, and he's just like supposedly like just a really nice guy.
He must have a lot of FI. You know.
Bye. You too. Take care.
FI makes you feel a lot of pain when you see suffering. That's my guess is that it probably is, you know, fairly FI dom.
FI dom.
I think he's an FI dom.
INFP maybe. He's dating an older woman.
I'd say either ISFP or INFP.
Yeah.
I don't know which
He could
one.
be.
He plays SFP characters usually. But he
I
might
really
be an
wanna
NFP.
see,
I don't know.
I want to see that movie that everyone likes. That he's in.
Speed.
No, I do need to see that too.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
I have to see that as well.
You've never seen Bill and Ted's
Yeah,
Excellent?
don't judge me.
I'm not judging. I'm excited to be able to.
Yeah, we can watch it together.
Yeah, we'll watch it. It's like because she's seen like everything.
Yeah, I've seen a lot, but I haven't seen a lot of like there's a gap in like 80s like early 90s movies because I was too young to watch them. So, you know, at that time I was going to see Disney movies. I wasn't, you know, going to go see Terminator.
Well, plus I gotta support your mom's decision to not let you do PG-13 until you were 18.
Yeah.
That's right. You know, it's like
no, my dad, no.
18. 18 is the proper age for PG-13 movies.
My dad took us to. My dad remembers the first non-cartoon movie that we went to, and it was Home Alone. And he remember being so happy that it was like finally a movie that he could watch that wasn't our cartoon.
Two fascists walk in a bar. One of them is Mike Jones, because he's a racist fuck. And the other one is Adolf Hitler. And they point at each other and say, hey, you're the wrong kind of racist.
New Zealand Black.
How do you like my joke, Mike
Yes,
Jones?
definitely one chair for Keanu for sure. Keanu gets his chair.
You know, Mike Jones, since you're a racist, do you think calling me a fascist is a little bit like the pot calling the kettle black? I explained it in great detail to you. It perpetuates a false narrative about a division between people that doesn't naturally exist. It was created by people who wanted to justify rights violations. I pointed out that all of your divisive energies about race take away from any possibility of meaningful solvency to actually do any help at all. I provided multiple advocacies that would provide meaningful help, and you had no answer to anything I said at all. So if you represent Black Lives Matter, then no intelligent person should have any respect for it at all.
Hey, Bacon. New Zealand Black.
I mean, after all, you literally had not a single answer to anything I said. All my points stood. All you said was, called me names, said I'm a fascist. You said that, you know, like, I'm insane. But any person who's even moderately intelligent can see clearly which of the two of us is making sane arguments, which of us is engaged in sanely mature discourse, and which of the two of us. Mike Jones, what makes you think I'm a white nationalist? What do you think a white nationalist is? What would I be advocating for if I were a white nationalist? Do you need the gays and miracles, Mike Jones? But I want you to answer that question. Can you answer it? What would, if you were going to accurately call me a white nationalist, what sort of advocacies would I be advocating for? Mike. Okay. So, you know that white nationalism is a political movement that preaches separatism and geographically isolating whites versus blacks, in different places. That's what white nationalism means. Have you ever heard me advocate for that in any way, shape, or form? Is it not the case that all of my advocacies against BLM are against divisiveness? That I'm saying, in fact, you are the racist bringing up the divisive issue of race in a way that destroys the effectiveness of public policy. You've not responded to any of that.
I agree with Shai T. His FI is very pure.
Mike Jones's is too, but it doesn't always result in being an angel. Sometimes it results in being a warrior on the side of wicked wrongness, as it has with Mike Jones.
I'll say something that's pretty controversial. Everyone's a little bit racist, so you can fuck yourself.
Also, a little bit more controversy than that. Everybody except me is quite a bit racist. Yeah. I'm not racist at all. I'm not possible for me to be racist because I'm racially fluid. I've been every race. So it's not possible for me to be racist. But everybody else is very racist. Mike Jones, you're much more racist than anybody else here. That's clear. But I actually am not racist at all. Why? Because as I've explained, Mike Jones, I'm racially fucking fluid. You didn't answer that either, so it still stands.
I totally hear you, Angantier. Why is it only a problem when white people do it? Exactly.
It's not. It's exactly the same problem no matter who invokes. No matter who invokes race, or no matter how they talk about it, unless they're talking about like I'm talking about it, they're causing more problems. It doesn't matter if they're trying to be woke. That's the worst kind of fucking racism.
Yeah.
Because those people try to lay claim not only to being racist, but to having the moral high ground as well, which is appalling.
What happened, Dylan Black?
How can I be against BLM? Because, so you're saying Black Lives Matter is a race? Mike Jones, do you think Black Lives Matter is a race? You know it's an organization, right?
It is?
I mean, or it's a group, right? It's got a political agenda. It's not a race of people. Black Lives Matter is not a race of people. Can we agree on that?
Yes.
Even if you believe in races, we can all agree that Black Lives Matter is not a race of people. What is their directive? To be racist? I don't know what their directive is. Who cares? It doesn't matter what they say they're trying to do. What they're actually doing is what I'm saying. And I've made those arguments. And again, Mike Jones, you agree with them all because you never responded to any of them. That means you assented to them. Look, it doesn't matter if it's far left, far right, Marxist, whatever. The fact is, BLM does the same exact thing as every group as bullshit organization does. It tries to impel upon people against their will some sort of identity that reduces them to a member of a group instead of treats them as a fully autonomous individual, like Mike Jones is doing. I know you don't agree with them, and you have no reason not to. That's why that's the worst thing you could possibly do. That shows you're not thinking at all. You're not even trying to think because you still disagree, even though you have no reason. You've provided no reason why I'm wrong. I've provided lots of reasons why I'm right. And you're still calling me names like I'm crazy or something. Mike Jones, you sound genuinely like you have some sort of learning disability because what conspiracy am I suggesting exists? I'm talking about the nature of the discourse implicit in using and invoking race for political purposes. I asked you the other day, can you come up with a single race-based policy that's a good advocacy? You couldn't come up with one. And didn't. I asked you to describe the conspiracy I think people are undertaking. You're not going to be able to because I never said anything of the sort. So now you're just making shit up. So Mike Jones, you're making Black Lives Matter look pretty fucking bad right now. You guys got nothing. It is. Absolutely. Look what we're doing right now. I don't sit here and say Black lives don't matter. I sit here and say all lives that are taken by a rights violating police officer, that justice needs to be done. The police officer needs to be held to account, and we need to reform the police because they are engaging in too much excessive force. So I'm taking the non-divisive approach because I'm not saying Let's throw this irrelevant factor of race in that's arbitrary make-believe and absolutely divisive. That's not a conspiracy, you fucktard. Oh my God. I'm not saying you idiots are conspiring. I'm saying you really are this stupid. Stupid? Nobody conspires to fail to cause impacts. I've asked you, hey, Mike Jones, I have asked you, what is a policy that can include a racial factor that's a good idea? If you cannot come up with a single one, then at that point, you got to really take a look in the mirror and try to be objective for a second. You're such a fucking racist. Why are you saying typical old white man? I'm not even white today. I will concede that I'm an old man today, or 49 anyway. Oh, I mean, horse mumbler, you bought into your own version of the bullshit too. And that's fine. You missed the point that I have the moral high ground because discourse is what matters. And driving the discourse is vastly more important than some sort of quibbling over my legitimate, but I admit somewhat technical definitional work. Quibbling over my legitimate but technical definitional work while forsaking the moral high ground does not make you right, horse mumbler. It makes you incredibly wrong on this point. I can be. I just happen to be today my natural biological age. Now, note, I can't be all masses. So even when I change to 6 years old, I'm still going to weigh the same. Is this Freddy Krueger shirt? It is? I had no idea. I think I must have bought it at his yard sale. I'm not going to give it back to him because, after all, I paid for it. And, you know, I believe in rule of law and the political process done properly. Things like that, you know. Crazy notions like that. Mike, America hating Jones. You hate the citizen democracy. That's why you hate being held to account to not be a groupist. You want to be able to dismiss me because you don't like the color of my skin. You're an old white man. I told you, Mike Jones, all the time because I love singing along with rap songs. How many times have you used it in your life? Because you know what's a real insult? That's not even an insult. Here's a real insult, Mike Jones. And the reason it's an insult to you is that it's true. You are a genuinely dumb person. And I'm not going to waste any more time talking to you. You're not responding to anything I say, and you should be ashamed of yourself. In the end, I don't ask people I know what race they are, stupid. I've gone over this before. You're now on timeout, mister. You're being put on timeout, not for being racist, not for having a bad political attitude, but for being stupid. No, horse mumble, I have both ends of the thing. I'm more effective and more righteous. You're on the side of quibbling technically about definitions in order to sustain an equal position. If in fact if I were to concede that there's some definitional work being done there and that it's not amateur hour definitional work, fine. But you seem to be either willfully or just slipped your mind, ignoring the fact that you're doing exactly the same thing. And I still do retain the moral high ground because what can one possibly use the narrative of race for to have good effect about anything? After all, it's not a meaningful revelation of character, intelligence, quality of humanity, or anything else. It will always be used to reduce an individual to a member of a group rather than accepting them as a fully autonomous, fully realized human being. So I will never accept that your race talk is anything but wicked. Yeah, I mean, if Black Lives Matter were a worthwhile organization, they'd have some worthwhile advocacies. They're the discourse branch of that organization is in the hands of people who are advocating things that will never be adopted and should never be adopted. And if they are adopted, they're temporarily and then abandoned immediately because it's a terrible fucking idea. Sometimes people on the internet make me mad. A little bit mad. Well, it makes me even madder than people on the internet. Flies. I have had so many flies land on my foot today. By masturbating, don't bring me down by fighting about a touchy subject. It's not even a touchy subject. It should be really straightforward. Everybody should be voicing exactly the same perspective I'm voicing on. And express endless contempt for those fucking races. Black Lives Matter is a racist group filled with hate. That's what they do. They don't have any actual advocacies. I mean, what I'm saying is, since the TI point is a wash, then we go with utilitarianism. And additionally, my point stands. If, in fact, it's arbitrary, then whatever thing you're trying to use as a correlate, it's bullshit anyway. It's meaningless data. And if you're making any sort of advocacy with it, then you're functionally reducing individuals to members of their groups. That's not utilitarianism. That's a principlist objection, that part of it. So, not quite. I mean, I'm definitely winning this point more than you think, or more than you're admitting. You have some good point to what you're saying, but the vast majority of the win here is on my side because as I've said multiple times, it's both aspects of the thing. The TI thing's a bit of a wash. The TE thing is cut and dry. I am big pile of impacts on my side, zero on yours, or negative impacts on yours. So that's it. When you do an impact calculus, you can choose to say, let's limit the frame here to just principlist things. But if the principlism's washed, then you have no choice but to default down to util. So that's just how it is in life. Ain't nothing to be done about that, bro. Brohan Broski Brosovich. Ain't nothing to be done about that. You remember this horse mongler? 30,000 days, 30,000 rough occasions, 30,000 more chances still to debate. How many days have we used up already? Getting older while I'm sitting here. Na 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 na. I'm not trying to group you in with anybody or associate you with arguments made by others. I am very specifically talking about the arguments you specifically are making about BLM, and you're saying that in fact, not about BLM, but about race. I'm not talking about BLM. I'm talking specifically about what you said to me before about race and how we should define it and stuff, and how you can manage to, with a whole lot of fucking TI effort, scrape together something that's somewhat sustainable as a definition. That doesn't mean you win the TI definitional point. It means it's a wash at best for you. And on the util thing, I am right. I am not putting you in a group. What group am I putting you in? Horse Mama, if I'm actually putting you in a group, tell me what group I'm putting you in. The group in with and associate me with arguments made by others. Which arguments made by others? Which arguments made by others have I associated with you? I have, as far as I know, you made definitional arguments and countered saying my definition is basically tricky and abusive. Okay. Well, I mean, I disagree. I think your definition is tricky and abusive. So that's a wash. So we go to util. I win it. Easy. A million times over. I'm not putting you in any part of the fucking group. Except the group of people who make strangely, objectively false statements, even though they're super fucking brilliant. What's up with that, horse mumbler? Combative. Combative. It's a combative. What is it? Tuesday? What day of the week is it? It's Internet Combat Wednesday. Welcome to Internet Combat Wednesday. Everybody loves to say I'm wrong. And occasionally I am. You better be very careful though, because most likely I'm right and you just missed something. It's true. I don't even know if race is very always want to hear views. Well, the point is this. Let's say we were going to affirm the idea that regardless of whether it's real or not, we want to make it as real as possible. In other words, let's put together a conglomeration of tests so that we can really nail down once and for all finally what someone's race is. And we agree on this broad consensus that this array of tests, when applied to a person, will reveal their actual race. Let's say we had that. What in the world are you going to use that for? That could possibly be anything other than malevolent. Let's say I'm wrong about it. Let's say race is real. Turns out they found the missing race gene. There was actually a certain protein that was hiding just underneath the chin. It's, if you look at it on a microscope, it says what race you are. And they pulled mine out, and it turns out I've been lying this whole time. I'm not transracial, I'm white. Okay, great. You found out my race now. What the hell are you looking at for that piece of information for? What do you possibly plan to use it for that could be anything other than evil and awful? Can anybody answer me that question? What are you going to use it for? I didn't group you in with horse mumble. I did not group you in with racist and evil people. When did I do that? I never did that. I mean, if you were talking about race as though it exists, you are a racist, but I don't put all that horrible connotation into it that other people do. It's the same thing as being other kinds of dumb. There's no worse or better. It's all the same. I don't think 90% of what people do is evil and awful. I think 90% of what people do is good and well-intentioned, and we're all trying to figure it out. We're passionate because we care. So, so that's caring is good. Being invested and being right is good. It keeps the genome disease free. The marketplace of ideas genome disease free.
Hey, handsome.
Hi, beautiful. I mean, what race are Puerto Ricans? Does anybody know what race they are? Can anybody tell me? What race are Puerto Ricans? What race are Mexicans? And what race are Cubans? Are they all the same race? And are they the same race as the... Okay, well, I mean, you are racist, though. I mean, that's just an accurate statement. I don't retract that at all. You're definitely racist, but it's not a big deal. Most people are. The most racist people of all are the people who think that focusing on race is the best way to attain social justice. Of course, it's exactly backwards. Okay, so what race are they then? Does everybody have a race? Okay, well, let's pretend it does exist then. Fine, I can say, let's pretend it does. So what race are Puerto Ricans? What race are French people? What race? All right. So tell me what race they are. If race exists, then go ahead and I'm conceding race exists. I want to get the lowdown on it. Okay. Okay, so Mexico is filled with Aztecs and Mayans. Is Are Aztecs and Mayans two races or one race? And what race are the half-breeds? Is Hispanic a race? Is it? Because, it refers to places that speak Spanish. I'm asking. I'm not telling you. I'm asking you what race those people are. Mike Jones says their race is people who speak Spanish. But I don't think he thinks what language you speak is a race.
No.
Do you, Mike Jones? Do you think what language you speak is a race?
That would be incorrect.
So Native American is a race? Were those my ancestors? Oh my God, I am so sorry, everyone. Mike Jones just filled me in on something that I didn't know before. Turns out that my ancestors were the ones that raped and killed everybody. Yes,
wow.
That's right.
No wonder you're so...
And he's assigned me the odd task of asking my dead relative something. So I'm not sure how I'm going to do that.
I did have Instagram, TinyMin66. I was thinking about joining it again. We'll see. I'll let you know if I do join back, though. For sure.
Okay, well, if we are acknowledging a simple biological truth, Horse Mumbler, then what race are Puerto Ricans? Have I ever filled out an application in my life? Nope. No, I have pulled off a modern miracle. I am nearly 50 years old, and I am so clever that I successfully made it all the way to 50 years old without filling out any applications. Now, even if let's say I had filled out applications, do you think I would have answered your I guess I think I should have had this conversation before filling out the applications, because when it said, "Did your ancestors rape and kill everyone?" I checked the no box. So now I'm worried, even if I get the job, if they find out about that, they're going to be like, "Hey, you lied on your application. We have a box that says, 'Did your ancestors rape and kill everybody?' You check no." I said, "But it wasn't my ancestors." Well, we're the same race as you. Really? Were they? Are you sure? Mike Jones, I hate to point this out, but in Africa, black people were enslaving other black people for millennia before white people came along and did it. So why don't you ask your ancestors? I mean, to be perfectly frank, until the Civil War, slavery was, pretty popular in the old world. A lot of different places did slavery. So why are you teaming up with them then, instead of teaming up with me and opposing them? Because you're like my evil ancestors? You love race? Even though you're being their little bitch? You're totally being their little bitch, The slavers are laughing in their graves at you because you bought their bullshit hook, line, and sinker. Yes, you did. Yeah, he's in the ESP. Okay. So Mike Jones is so dumb that even though the slavers are the people who violated everyone's rights and caused all that harm and stuff, he's chosen to take their side and be racist like them. What a maroon. Yeah, Mike, you're a dumb guy. He can't answer any meaningful question. Mike Jones, can you even tell me one thing the Black Lives Matter advocates for? What's one thing that they advocate for? An actual policy prescription, not we advocate for getting rid of racist cops. That's not an advocacy. That's a Christmas fucking list. Advocacies are actual policy prescriptions that might be implemented and do some good. Now, you are doing some good here. Because why? You're provoking for me all the best arguments about this so that you can at least hear them. You probably, chattel refers to when some human beings treat other human beings or livestock all the same. Now, for much of human history, in many cultures, maybe even most cultures, women were chattel and children were chattel. And as far as antebellum slavery goes, well, in the South, slavery was just as bad as it was in Africa. So when the black people in Africa enslaved the other black people in Africa, that was very bad of them. And it was just as bad, the same bad, when the South and the U.S. did it. Both of those things are very, very bad and have nothing to do at all with race. Remember the Israelites? Do you remember the Israelites, Mike Jones? Were you under the impression that that was a volunteer labor force? They weren't the rulers of Africa, as I recall. If you think slavery is about race, you don't know anything in the world at all about human history. No, Mike Jones, you are advocating on behalf of Black Lives Matter, but you can't even tell me a single thing they advocate for. So you're not actually in favor of Black Lives Matter. You just like the name. That's the depth of your relationship with it. And you feel like it gives you an excuse to go like tear down statues or something. Mike Jones, I know that's what you're advocating. You're advocating a slaver's, not a white man's, but a slaver's justification for evil. A specific slaver that said, let's create race to justify this. I guess that slaver had a little bit more developed FI. In previous incarnations of slavery all throughout the world, people would enslave their friends, their neighbors, whatever, right? But I guess the Americans tried a new approach. Too bad. Now, no, it's almost for sure that somebody in my history has been enslaved too. True for almost everybody in the world, okay? So one of my ancestors has been enslaved too. But guess what I'm not, Mike Jones? Unlike you, I'm not a little bitch. So I don't define my whole identity by my victimhood. You little bitch. It was never about race. It was always about rights violation. Okay, I will read it out for you, Mike James. Mike Jones is a enormous little bitch. Why? Because he's so scared. He's so scared of the truth that he won't answer anything I say, ignores everything I say, and just pretends as though words don't matter. Well, Mike Jones, they do matter. That's why you're getting your ass thrown about the room here. Because the truth matters. And you are wrong and wicked. All right. I'm sorry I get a little carried away, but this fucktard is annoying me. Okay. Leonard Peens here. I love Leonard's here. Thank you, Leonard, for coming. Leonard's a person who likes to come here and sit in time out for 5 minutes and then get a chance to say something again. I like to waste his entire afternoon as possible. My white privilege allows me to live in a delusional fantasy. You know what, Mike Jones? That's not a privilege. That's a right. To live in a delusional fantasy is not a privilege. It's a right. It's a right you enjoy as well. You indulge in the right to be delusional almost continually. But Horse Mumbler, you have not defined race by anything, and you're saying that when I say that it's true, I agree that race is not the same thing as skin color. I agree it's not the same thing as phenotype. So you tell me what it is then. That's the problem you have, right? Yeah. Right now, Mike Jones, I'm rubbing the white privilege of my scrotum all over your face. Do you like the smell of it? It's a little gamey, isn't it? Well, you wanted it there. You wanted my balls up your nose. Oh, thank God. You're targeted because your nose seems like it's so hungry for my balls. That's why I'm targeting it. It's really, I'm not so much targeting your nose as acquiescing to its lust for my balls. You can smell my butthole after that if you like. You need to push your nose all the way up in there, Mike Jones. Come on now. That's a little overboard. You just go to your vaginal blood splash party and go away. Okay, so if it is just a taxonomy, then what you're saying is there are some apparent, as with any spectrum, you can draw lines equidistant from the ends of the spectrum and say, let's call it a day. It's arbitrary, but at least we divide something into sets. Okay, fine. Now, how are you going to use those sets in a way that's not evil? Because it is arbitrary. Oh, Mike Jones. Mike Jones is really lapping it up right now, David White. He says his taste buds have never been so a tangle. Were his exact words, I believe. Mike Jones is getting some of my sweat from my balls. He's sucking off that sweat, sweaty balls. Put your tongue all up in my hole, butthole, tongue in my hole, tongue, Mike's tongue in my hole, oh, Mike tongue in my toe. Mike Jones, will you stop it? You're being a little intimate right now. I don't want your tongue up my butthole. Don't make me sing another Negro spiritual, because I will. Okay, I'm a big fan of the Negro spiritual. I've been one for a long time, and periodically, to show just how woke I am, I enjoy sharing wisdom by a Negro spiritual. Okay, look, Chai Tea. I've explained this. Cops do not enforce the law fairly. And there's a lot of different ways in which they don't enforce the law fairly. There are some cops who are racist and who don't enforce the law fairly on race. There are way more cops who are personal lifeists. In other words, they won't give a ticket to somebody they know. They won't arrest their friend's son for drugs, but they'll arrest somebody they don't know for drugs, right? So the thing is, it's always wrong when the cops apply the laws unfairly, unjustly, and unequally. But what's going to happen is this. If we try to address this problem by bringing in race into the question, we are going to maximally make the problem worse. Because what Mike Jones is doing is saying, here, cops, have a free pass. What should happen for the cops is they should be arrested and imprisoned for murder when they kill somebody. But what Mike Jones is guaranteeing is that instead they're going to get more training on racism. Idiot. Don't you want the cops to go to jail when they kill people? If Mike Jones is right, and in fact the problem is racism, well then gosh, I mean, we just need to train them better, and then they won't kill people anymore. If we continue to let them get away with it, they will continue to kill people. On the other hand, if we focus on what matters, the crime, and not what does not matter, their bullshit justification for the crime, then we're in sane land where actual results happen. Mr. T, I've asked Mike Jones on multiple occasions to provide me with advocacy BLM is making. If it's a political group, then they should be making some sort of advocacies. To simply speak out against violent crime and to treat it as though it were something other than what it is to afford it a legitimacy it doesn't deserve. When a cop commits a violent crime of murder, that's the only thing that we should be talking about. The cops committed murder again. If we treat it as though it's something other than murder, we're affording it much more legitimacy than it deserves. If we treat it as though it's a problem of a person's attitude or mental processes, then we are denying that they are accountable for their own actions and behaviors, not for their own thoughts and feelings. You must be really frustrated, Mike Jones. you keep calling me racist, and you got to know deep down, right, that you're a shitty fucking person. You're such a racist, and I totally am not. So that's cool. I'm glad Mike Jones comes here too, so he allows me to demonstrate over and over again exactly what's wrong with having wrong positions. You can't sustain them. You can't support them. Okay, I'll stop ignoring the rest of the chat. But I mean, people are.
Who told you this?
People are. Okay, well, whatever. Like, the thing is, one of my jobs in life is to take the haters, Juniper Hats, Mike Jones, and other dumb people who are sort of reflexively angered by my correctness, and to disallow that kind of bullshit from happening. Well, how do you disallow it? You don't censor them. You don't ban them from the chat. You just reveal to everybody, them and everybody else, why it's preferable to use good arguments. The Celts, you don't racist guy here. You don't think the Celts are a race? Well, what if they think they're a race? Are they a race? Notice me, senpai. Okay, Angan's here. In an ideal world, that's the way it should be. So why do you think we haven't figured it out yet? Because people don't think that the right argument is necessarily the best way to determine things. They go, yeah, well, he may have won the argument. It doesn't mean he's right. Well, okay, true in any given instance. But if you look over the whole thing, you see the same argument playing out again and again, same sort of arguments being made, and one side consistently losing, as happened with gay marriage and marijuana, then all of a sudden society's attitudes change, and it's no longer something we have to forever treat the symptoms of while concurrently making the symptoms worse. That's what Black Lives Matter wants to do. They want to have the cops continue to kill black people forever, and so they can continue to make a big fuss about it and have their moment of directionless empowerment.
It is directionless.
How to properly convey that to others? You can't. This is something I've come to understand. If you're looking for the satisfaction of explaining something to somebody and having them be convinced by it, and then informing you that you convinced them, that happens extremely, very, very, very rarely. And for people like Mike Jones, he's not going to be influenced by the argumentation really positively at all, because he's not capable of understanding it. He's TI polar, and it's just, it's like you just pearls before swine. But the thing is, okay, you listed the 5 major races, but what I'm asking you is, how do we know which one of those 5 somebody is?
Hey, David White. Hey, everyone. I was just doing laundry.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to happen naturally. What happens naturally, and I've seen this happen with various things in the debate coach. I watch arguments trickle down from competition level debate to the general populace. And what happens is this. Right now, there are the marketplace of ideas doesn't have a niche set up for a box that people who don't want to actually understand the real things can understand the box. So Mike Jones keeps trying to put me into one of his 2 boxes, either woke or racist old white man. Now, of course, there's almost nobody who opposes BLM is probably a openly racist old white man. But what he's saying is basically, in the status quo, the narrative is the discourse is so bad that people can't even conceive of what the truth would look like, because they're so, if you're not a thinker at all, if you're like Mike Jones, you can't even begin to conceive of the truth, because you've got it polarized into these 2. These are the only 2 positions that it can be about this. You're either woke or you're racist. Now, of course, the truth is those 2 are the same thing, and I'm the correct position. But it's going to take a while for that narrative to get out. I have to keep doing this. And then what happens is the people who do understand me, when they argue with somebody else in their life, they just go ahead and cop my arguments and make them themselves to their opponent, as they should. And they shouldn't credit me or anything like that. That's how argumentation works. Whenever you hear a good argument, you always cop it. And so anytime that happens, I am making the country a better place.
What is that?
That's the real duty of intuitives in the world. Is to lead the way ideationally, because currently the public discourse is 90% represents here's what happens when you let the censors drive for too long. It's like there's no meta-analysis. It's all analysis at best.
I agree.
Analysis at best, or just sort of informational, or even worse, it's sort of like complaining. But
yeah,
there needs to be meta-analysis. We need to be talking about how to. We need to be talking about how to. And that's fine.
Yeah.
There's these people. I like to put them on timeout because they wait. They wait here. They're spending. They'll spend probably the whole afternoon just waiting for the chance to say one thing to me.
Me and Jennifer are color twins. I'm pink and you're pink. Jennifer has.
Who's harder to argue with? TI polar or NI polar? TI polar is harder to. Well, okay. NI polar is actually harder to argue with, which is to say, NI polar does not want to argue. As soon as you go, but NI, they go, we're not, that's not relevant. We're not talking about that. TI polar people, they think they're doing the same thing that you're doing, kind of. It's like, it's like my classic polar example of the sirens. Okay, so here's the sirens. I will tell you those. I will talk to you about that question, Dave White, in a second. Let me finish what I'm saying here, which is, let's pretend you have a special disability. You are deaf, but it's only to fire engine sirens. All right. So what happens then is you learn from FE that when fire engines drive by, we have a social habit. We stick our fingers in our ears. It must be just sort of one of those pointless social things like waving and shaking hands that we do sometimes. You don't know that the other people are hearing things because you're deaf to just that one sound. Okay. So, and it just so happens that because you're so consistently doing it at the same time other people are doing it, nobody else has any reason to notice that you're deaf to that one sound. After all, the thing you're doing, it looks like you're hearing the sound and putting your fingers in your ears because it's too loud. That siren's too loud. That's not why you're putting your fingers in your ears. You're putting your fingers in your ears because you think, well, that's something people do periodically for no reason. When fire engines drive by, it must be a way to celebrate fire engines or something. At some point, what will happen is the person will put his fingers in his ear when there is no siren. Everyone's going like, what are you putting your fingers in your ear for? And I go, well, because fire engine. And they go, but that's not why. We only put our fingers in our ears when it has siren on because it's loud. I don't hear anything. What is siren? What is that? And then maybe there'll be some, you have some sort of deficit in this area. Well, that's what, as the argument with ESFP is like that. It's like that, except instead of going, you mean there's something that I'm not hearing? They go, no, the siren was on. That the siren was on because my fingers were in my ears. You're like, yeah, but it wasn't on them. And they go, well, but you put your fingers in your ears when sirens aren't on. And you go, no, I don't. And why are you fighting me on this?
Yeah.
The Celts, Hyperboreans, Atlanteans spread knowledge throughout the whole world. They didn't want to enslave, they just wanted to teach. Well, Middle Ages or Dark Ages Europe was functionally a series of small slave plantations called fiefdoms. I mean, they were serfs. They weren't, I guess, technically slaves, but still slaves for all intents and purposes. So it's not like human history is filled with examples of humans behaving in accordance with principle. That's why it's time for us to stop the cycle. The cycle is there's been unprincipled behavior. Let's behave in an unprincipled fashion to show how mad we are. That's the cycle that needs to stop. Somebody needs to actually respect principle and say, okay, I'm not going to. Yes, injustice happened in the past. I'm going to focus on things that are either actually holding the right parties accountable, like when Mike Jones says, ask my ancestors, even if my ancestors had been Southern slave owners, that doesn't make me responsible for anything they've done. Sins of the father don't transfer down to the son. Covert, like Mike Jones, so are you saying that secretly I believe white people are better, right? That they're supreme, like the ultimate breakfast sandwich, for example. Okay, and so what reason do you have to believe that I think white people are better? Since you're the one who's fixated on race, and I keep telling you that race is bullshit and everybody's the same. What have I said that would make you think that I'm secretly a white supremacist? Wishful thinking? Projection? So are black people white supremacists when they're arrogant? Are all pompous people white supremacists? I mean, do you really think that being pompous makes somebody a white supremacist? You couldn't possibly think that, actually, right? If you're a Christian, the Bible says sins of the father pass to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. Well, then the Bible's wrong about that. Hey, Pedro Castro.
Hey, Pedro Castro.
Or if it's saying they should, then it's wrong. If it's saying they do but shouldn't, then it's right. Or if it's saying they do but it doesn't take any normative position, then there's no particular truth value to it. Everybody be careful. Don't be arrogant. I just learned today that if you start displaying too much arrogance or pomposity, you will turn into a white supremacist. Now, Jason Blood, you've been pretty pompous around here on a few occasions, and Mike Jones has got me worried. Admit it, you're a white supremacist, aren't you, Jason Blood?
How did you know?
His arrogance, his pompous attitude. He's pompous, he's got an attitude, ergo, white supremacist.
I should have known.
Yeah, obviously. Did you really get married twice? I've been married twice.
Yes, he did get married
I have
twice.
2 ex-wives.
I have 0 ex-husbands.
I'm 99.9% transracial and 0.1% unknown. Well, racism is exclusive to people who think about, talk about, believe in, and generally prioritize race. That's what makes somebody racist. I tell you, it's so weird because I can't even conceive of, I barely notice how old somebody is, what they look like, or anything like that. I deal with people as individuals, it's like, obviously, Mike Jones is not dealing with me as an individual at all. He's rejecting all of the data that I'm presenting him. And he's saying, even though, Eric, your interaction with me has displayed nuanced and correct argumentation, a genuine concern for justice, and obviously more inclusive frame of reference than yours, you're accusing me of being a white supremacist. I'm not virtue signaling for shit, Mike Jones. If I were virtue signaling, I'd be all up in BLM's ass, like every other fucking virtue signaler out there. I'd be trying to prove how woke I am. You're accusing me of virtue signaling, but I'm arguing that your stupid fucking Black Lives Matter is a racist bunch of cunts. That's not virtue signaling. That's speaking the hard truth to a dummy.
Quite proud. Was the wife you have?
What if I said it's racist, Mike Jones? I'm saying that your racist organization is racist. If I had an organization called White Lives Matter, you'd be correct to call me racist. If I supported an organization called White Lives Matter, you'd be correct to call me racist. Just like I'm correct to call you racist. You've never heard me speak a single conspiracy about this. I've not voiced any conspiracy. It does not take any conspiracy for you to be stupid, Mike Jones. And a lot of people like you. You guys do it all by yourselves. No, I'm not arguing semantics. He's not even arguing anything. He's just being a little douchebag. I had my wife with the first, my kid with the first wife. I had my child with the first wife, not with the second. The second, don't call me a liar, Mike Jones. All you do is insult me and prove your weakness here.
He's not a liar.
I'm not a liar. And I'm also not a white supremacist, obviously. And
he's definitely not a white supremacist at all.
No sane person thinks they could make a case that I'm a racist that would stand even 1 second of scrutiny.
No.
It's so obviously false. In fact, I'm a powerful voice in opposition to that shit.
Yes.
I've been consistently a voice in opposition to groupism like yours from the day I started to be on YouTube.
Yep.
So yeah, I have a very good understanding of how idiocy manifests, and I recognize your version of idiocy, and yeah, I'm calling you out on it.
Exactly. Don't shoot the messenger.
No, I wouldn't want to say. I wouldn't want to say Black lives are important, because if I were to say Black lives are important, what would I be saying? I'd be saying I'm willing to confer onto some people. I'm willing to say, oh, you're not just people, you're a special group. You know, who wants to be part of a special group? Who really wants to ride on the cultural short bus like that? I would, there's a good reason why you don't hear me playing group identity shit. Right? Like I was saying, there's no good way to do it. You're either being a little bitch and avoiding your responsibility, or you're being a little bitch and trying to impose your arbitrary shit onto other people as though we're objective, or you're just trying to find some rock to cling to in the storm, no matter how toxic it is, and your rock happens to be hate.
So I saw that movie in 1917, right? Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
So I saw this movie about
1917.
1917, and one of the advice that one of the captains told the soldier was, make sure that when you give the note to this general, that you have people around you to confirm that it was handed over and everything, because in this world there are some people who just want to fight.
Yeah. Another thing to note here too, which is let's say that you say what Homeboy's saying up here, the Gen Z exennial thing. All lives can't matter until Black lives matter. Systemic racism is real. This is reality. Here's the thing, though, yeah. Gen Xial. Racism is never the problem. Never. Because you can't harm me by believing racist things. You can't harm me by thinking less of me because of your wrongness. Now, if you do harm me in a way that violates my rights, then now we have an actual problem, don't we? But it's not racism, is it? It's rights violation. So if the laws were written correctly, police officers would not meaningfully be able to arbitrarily enforce them because they wouldn't include consensual crimes as criminal. The elimination of the ability to arbitrarily enforce crimes is step one, because as long as there is room to arbitrarily enforce crimes, police officers will, sometimes with no ill intent at all. The police officer is not trying to be racist. He's trying to be nice to this one person. He lets him go. But then he's not quite as nice to this other person. And, if he's nice to the black person and lets him go, but he's not quite as nice to the white person, nobody thinks anything, right? But of course, no matter what, nobody thinks anything because neither party knows of the other party. Neither party is going to tell on the cop for letting them go. And the cop's not going to reveal to the person he just arrested that he just let somebody go for the same crime. So as a consequence.
Yep, because it happened to me.
So look.
That exact thing. It's made an example of.
It's absolutely true that biased policing is a huge problem. And it's absolutely true that it's not the bias that's the problem. It's the application of arbitrary laws that can be enforced arbitrarily that are not representative of actual crimes. Actual crimes are crimes against people or property. A drug crime is neither. More than half of the people in the criminal justice system are there for drug crimes. And a disproportionate amount of those people self-identify as African American. I may think it's incredibly stupid of them to self-identify as a race, but it doesn't change the fact that it is an odd statistic that says a disproportionate amount of prisoners self-identify as African American. So you might think that that's good evidence of racism. I'd say, no, don't crash the car. We're trying to do something here. Don't crash the car. Because if you're going to spend your energy trying to hold people accountable for their mental processes, they've really suckered the fuck out of you. Now you can't hold them accountable for real things because the problem's not their behavior. The problem is that no decent human being would do that to another human being. The problem is they're ignorant. They're racist. They're racist, ignorant people. That's the problem. We can't really hold them accountable because they just don't know enough. They just don't have the right beliefs. Beliefs don't mean shit when it comes to crime. What matters is what you do, and it does matter to a certain extent whether or not you know what you do is a crime, but as to your motivation for the crime, that doesn't matter for shit. If I willfully and knowingly murder you, it doesn't matter if it's because I really disliked you, because your hat made me furious, because I wanted to steal your wallet, because I want to steal your wife. It doesn't matter why. And and Black Lives Matter is an organization that says, we've got to eliminate hats because most people who kill people have hats on. It's like, no, retards, no. Zaylen Black, you cannot police people's mental processes. Your desire to snuff out racism is a desire to control every other human being's mental processes. What a bad idea. I am not denying racism, Mike Jones. I'm pointing out, that's my critique of you. I'm pointing out your racism. I'm saying you're an awful person for your racism. How am I denying racism? How can you hear me say to you, Mike Jones, that you're a racist, and in the next breath say that I'm denying racism? At some point, you've got to go, you know what, this guy's actually right. I really am full of shit. Oh, you fucking fucktard. Mike Jones, I am taking it very seriously. I'm saying I can't allow racists like you to take what an actual opportunity for real reform of a real problem and convert it into your little pet bullshit issue. Look, people who are serious people, mine's an elementary response. Mike Jones, you are so God. This is the kind of sort of thing that's the real bottom of the barrel there. Mike Jones, if you actually think my response is not sophisticated enough and yours is, you've been utterly poisoned by politics. I guess that's what racism does to you. That's an example of that's your brain on racism. Mike Jones is your brain on racism. Don't go there, kids. It makes you stupid. Institutionally, the government agencies lack the will to rectify the behavior of agents by placing appropriate measures. We don't need to rectify the behavior of agents about anything other than hold them accountable the same crimes we hold everybody else accountable to. In other words, one of the biggest problems is that if a cop kills somebody, that incident is not treated the same as if I kill somebody. It's treated very, very differently. The cop is presumed to have a much more likely chance to have been legitimate in the use of force. It's assumed that it's an open question. It's not assumed first and foremost that the person murdered somebody, and so they're going to have to prove themselves and have a good reason to do so or something. It's presumed that the cop must have had a good reason. That frame of reference is terrible. If we're talking about racism, then the cop can just go like this. Look, I followed all of our book full of race protocols here. And if you look on this day, I arrested 5 times as many white people as black people. So you cannot call me racist. Also, I've got a black wife. So since I'm not racist, we know that must have been a legitimate shoot. Okay? That's what BLM is inviting. That's how it works. You see, if I were on the cop side, I would be sending cards and fruit baskets to BLM because they are allowing me now to reframe this issue so that the problem is not a lack of constraint, a lack of legal constraint on cops. It's not the affording of qualified immunity to cops by a Supreme Court that interpreted the law to mean the exact opposite of what it said. That's not the problem. No, you see, it's like if you fixate on irrelevant factors when talking about an issue, then you either muddy the discourse, you argue for the wrong side, or you just waste my time.
Can I just say that, like, the whole civil rights movement was impactful because they chose nonviolence.
Right. Why did the Tulsa massacre happen, Eric? Because Norman had enough of their shit? Yeah, that's true. I didn't feel like my time was wasted. I mean, put it this way. Rather be mad than bored. Yeah, probably rather be bored than sad, but I'd rather be mad than bored. I'd rather be ecstatic than any of those. I would most like to experience nonstop elation.
What makes it? Can I help?
Yeah, I have a lot of elation. I have a high. I have more than my RDA of elation. I have a cold squirt at the moment.
It is. That's a nice thing to have. I drink it so fast.
But I think I might end up taking this video down because I got a lot of I talked a lot of controversial stuff. But I mean, the thing is this: I don't want to take it down because everything I said was correct. I think the violence is justified. They don't need to respect the social contract because they don't feel like they're part of the country. Well, there's your mistake, Pedro Castro. There's no such thing as a social contract. That's Orwellian doublespeak. A contract is something that two parties willingly enter into and also are fully informed in entering into them. And the social contract auto enters babies into a contract they don't consent to and are not old enough to enter into anyway, that's not a contract. That's just a bullshit wording of an arbitrary claim that people have an obligation that come from anywhere. No, that's not the case. Just because people are subject to laws does not mean they are part of a social contract. A contract is a word that means something specific. The social contract says, let's pretend, we should all pretend as though we have a contractual obligation to give up certain rights in exchange for certain protections. It might be the case that we should give up certain rights for certain protections. It might be the case that we have some kind of obligation to do so. It might be the case that that too much deference to rights is a problem. All those things might be a case. But what is definitely not the case is that any of us entered into a contract with society. Freddie Forgiato, name calling can get you a warning or a strike. And I did some name calling today. And last time I did name calling, it was a lot worse than this name calling. But last time I did that, I got a warning. And if I get a strike, it's like YouTube basically shadow bans you. They've already sort of shadow banned me. I'm stuck. I've been stuck at the same number of subs for a year. You know. Well, Freddie Forgiato, if you've gone through the some of the very traumatic experiences I've gone through with YouTube, such as when YouTube abruptly took down a channel I had called TWFP Raw 1 that had many thousands of hours of content with including many different people having many different conversations abruptly without any warning, with any chance of getting my shit, and disappeared it so it's gone forever. Then you take seriously the chance that some fucking arbitrary bullshit might happen. You know, you get a little skittish. It's a little bit of an SI skittishness. When it's like my dad with his identity theft. It's certainly not the case that people are subject to as much or as easy identity theft as my dad seems to think, but it is the case that he was subject to a bad one, and he's been PTSD'd about it ever since. If there's no social contract, what stands in the way of violence? Well, what I'm saying is the answer to that is there's a lot of different things. But, for example, it is true that citizens of a nation state are legally obligated to follow the laws. So one thing that prevents them from breaking the laws is that they will suffer punishment if they do. If they get caught and arrested and convicted, they'll suffer punishment. But the simplest answer to the question, what stands in the way of the violence, is the government. The definition of a nation state, or the definition of a state, a sovereign governing body, is that which has a monopoly on use of force. That's the definition of a governing body. Okay, Pedro, but listen. None of the people, or very few of the people who are violating rights, have themselves had their rights violated. In other words, it's not the victims of these police crimes who are protesting. It's people who identify with the victims of these police crimes. So you can't say, if you were going to use the argument, and this is a legitimate argument, Pedro Castro, but you have to use it right. Okay, what you're doing here is sort of legitimate, but you have to use it right. So you're saying because if somebody violates my rights, then their rights are forfeit. In other words, they have the right to go about their business unmolested. I will violate their rights if I shoot them or stab them. However, if they come up to me with a gun and start robbing me, they forfeit their rights because they violated mine. Okay? But the important thing to remember, Pedro Castro, is rights occur between individuals. Groups don't have rights. And in fact, whenever they do, that's when you have actual instances of privilege. It's called aristocracy. We have lots of examples of it in human history. When a certain class of people has a special kinds of entitlements and rights, because they're that group. So that's not okay. That's not the case here in America. There are no legally entrenched special rights for people. Like there's nothing in the law that says anymore. It says white people can do meow, but black people have to do meow. So the law is consistent with what we ought to do, which is not consider irrelevant factors like race when drawing distinctions in law. If we do consider irrelevant factors like race, no matter how hard we try to do it well, we always end up doing bad things. Separate but equal is an example, or the Dred Scott ruling, and was that the one? Okay, no, they're not, Pedro. No, they're not. You were saying who is advocating for equality? Equality between whom? Because look, if BLM really wanted equality, then they wouldn't be drawing distinctions between their group and a different group and making it clear that those two groups are not equal. That big bad whitey is evil and woke is good. That's bullshit, though. So it's absolutely not the case that they're advocating for equality. They are advocating specifically for the opposite of equality. No, I'm not saying that. I would be saying what they would do is if they had any fucking sense in their head, they'd have the proper name, which is police reform is desperately overdue, or police are citizens too and should be held to account as well. Those are proper names, because then you're focusing on the problem. Police behavior, not the social source of this problem that you infer incorrectly from the data. The fact is, there are a disproportionate number of people in prison for drug crimes from urban communities, big cities, and a disproportionate number of people in jail for drug crimes from the centralmost areas of big cities. Now, it also so happens that those areas in big cities tend to be the poorer areas in big cities. In other words, where does drug crime happen? It happens where gray markets are. Gray markets are, and well, most places black markets for drugs, but it's not like it happens in the nice part of town. That means that everybody who lives in the nice part of town, no matter what race they are, is going to be fine. And it matters that the most recent I heard of was an attempt that light-skinned individual tried to lynch a dark-skinned individual in Indiana, but a few weeks ago, about two dark-skinned individuals were hanged and killed in Southern California, near where I live. Okay, but it's like every time someone with a lot of skin pigment dies, it's big news. But it's not even news at all unless we accurately compare it against an alternative. So what that means is how many white people are hung in the same period of time? It's the same thing with COVID. Everyone's like, Italy is proof that COVID is the end of the world. COVID wasn't even the worst flu winter for Italy in 5 years. You only go back to 2016 to find a worse month. So people saying, "No, this is uniquely bad." They were wrong.
They are dramatic people.
Erica, have you heard of any light-skinned individuals being hunted and displayed in public?
And a lot of females.
Yeah, of course. I mean, all the time. Hanged? I mean, I agree that lynching.
Yeah, really.
Lynching was
molested all the time.
Lynching was specific to a slavery system that also functioned as an apartheid system. And of course, if you're a bunch of enslaving scumbags, then you don't have any qualms about killing your victims into compliance, shocking the conscience, torturing, all that kind of stuff. Cops do it now too. Of course, a lot of the cops involved in these things are not white. Those stories don't get pitched as big, right? Because that kind of messes up the whole racism is at the root of this thing, right? A lot of these instances have cops who are not white. Remember the New York cops? Asian guy and a Mexican guy. They shot a black guy in a stairwell in the projects. So is it because the Asians and the Mexicans are so racist against black too?
They're lynching people.
What about when the black cops are involved? Are they racist too? Or do at some point we acknowledge that the problem is their willingness to use too much force and kill people, their eagerness to at some point, it seems like, and the lack of accountability in the current system, and not really about race at all? Do I have any evidence to back up what? Which thing did I claim that you want evidence for? That a lot of these excessive uses of force involve officers that aren't white? Okay, I can find you plenty of examples. Do you want me to look it up? And of course, look, there are so many stories that appall the conscience in which all parties involved, cops and person being violated, were the same race. So, if we're trying to find an actual cause for this thing, a single cause that's central to it, okay, well, that's a worthwhile search. We can do a little testing and eliminate race right away, because that's obviously not it. Because if that were it, you wouldn't have same race incidents. You wouldn't have, it's just obviously that's not it.
It is within the police force that needs to change.
No, I didn't say most of the shootings of black people don't involve white cops. I'm saying most of the shootings involving cops involve actually a rather large group of cops. It's rare that you have like one cop shooting. It does happen, but a larger percentage of the time you've got a whole group of them, and it's like they got each other's backs. They try to hide shit from the public. They fucking cover up those body cameras. They go back to the station and sabotage the tape. They police unions insist that they get to view the tape before they make their report. Right. Shit like that. It's complete fucking bullshit.
Yeah. I've had run-ins with the cops where I was definitely unfairly treated because I was white and female and had came from a decent home. They made an example of me. So it.
And that's gonna happen if you start saying. Because remember, the problem has never been white privilege. The problem has always been cops violating people's rights. It's not like I'm trying to claim a privilege. No, I should get to come in here and steal this stuff.
Thank you.
I don't have to pay for this. I'm white. That's privilege. Okay.
Right.
So if there is a differentiation in treatment, and if white people are treated okay, and black people are treated not okay, then the problem is definitely not white privilege, is it? It's black oppression. We don't want to take things away from people who are happy, free, and just. Yeah. We want to make sure everybody has that. If you frame it as white privilege, if you frame it as a racial thing, then of course you're going to end up causing more problems instead of fewer. Yeah. You are Juniper Hats. You are. Oh, that's right. I'll inherit the estate. I'll be fine. Thanks. Thanks for asking, though. Who's going to support me and Rachel if something happens to my dad? I will. With my family's estate. they'll inherit. Pretty cool, huh, Juniper hats? Seems like I'm set pretty good. I guess shame on me, or how awful of me to have a good life.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. Juniper hats is somebody who's spent so much time and energy here just to try to be spiteful, and it always backfires.
Yeah.
I guess what the thing is, one thing is obviously spitefulness doesn't necessarily correlate very strongly with intelligence. It's not like the most smartest. It's not like the smartest, most creative people or interesting people are the ones who are spiteful. If you're spiteful, we already know you're not interesting enough to do something worthwhile. That you're not smart enough to have good answers for me, and you're not creative enough to do something interesting. So
this is like LOLing in my head a lot.
black cops can easily be prejudiced against the black brothers and sisters.
Oh my God.
Okay, so what about black only children? Are you saying that black cops are not prejudiced against black only children? It's just the siblings? What if the two siblings have two different parents, one a light-skinned black and one a dark-skinned black? The fact is, what Rachel said here is probably the most true thing of all. Who has the most legitimate reason to complain about being treated differently by the cops, and people in general? Like, who has the most legitimate reason for sort of persistent ill treatment, occasionally directed at them? Well, women. But note, intelligent women don't think men are the problem.
Fuck no.
They acknowledge that there are individual men and individual women both that are awful human beings.
Yep.
And that just because they express their awfulness towards your group doesn't mean that awfulness towards your group is the number one problem in the universe.
Definitely not.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't remember that horse mumbler, but that thing right there is what happens when you encourage divisive racial discourse. The poor communities, individuals in poor communities would have no problem with the cops at all if we made the cops' job to enforce actual crimes against people or property. If that's what they did, if the cops only showed up when a crime had been committed against you and you called them, everybody would be fine with the cops. Nobody would have any problem. They'd be the brave heroes who go and solve actual crimes when people's rights have actually been violated, and who don't go looking for people to bust. Drink. Is this a drinking game? You have to take a drink every time Eric yells. You never put down your drink then. You just never put down your drink.
No, but
it's out.
Yeah, I know, they're both out.
I want some coffee.
Yay, I'm glad you do. Makes me happy.
All right. So Rachel, you see you command at home for a minute or two while I
Sure.
do that thing.
If he is racist, his bias will be reflected in his actions. There you go. Like, I think the notion of you being racist is the most, like, I mean, it shocks me.
Right.
But I know you well.
I mean, the key thing to tell whether somebody's groups or not is what's their default in dealing with people. Do they make a lot of notations that, like, if, let's say as a host, people come in here and I see their icons here, and I'd be like, Pedro, hey, good to see you, Viva la Raza. Oh, here's Cara. Hey, I'm really feeling your people's ways right now. And then as we're talking about it, well, I'm sure Cara's got an opinion about BLM. She's black. That's the kind of
That
fucking
is
garbage
bullshit.
that nobody would ever want to actually suffer from, right?
Yeah.
No, none of you want to be reduced to some stupid caricature of you that I make. And I don't want to make stupid characters of people. I want to actually get to know the depth and interestingness of an actual human being. It serves me no good to reduce them artificially. It's already going to be the case that I have to artificially reduce them to understand them at all because they're too big of a thing to understand other than symbolically.
Thank you, emailed Anthrax, and you're right. It is much more relaxing. Like, my hair's probably gonna dry very quickly out of the shower. I haven't taken a hair shower yet.
I think we have more flies today than the whole
Every
rest of the
time
summer.
Eric shows his crotch, I made that up a few episodes ago.
What's that?
Gen Exio says, drink every time Eric shows his crotch. I made that up a few episodes ago.
That's a good rule. That's a good drinking game rule. It doesn't happen too often, but it happens pretty often.
I did 23andMe, and like, I'm so American. It's ridiculous. Because I'm American. I was born in America. And other people live in other places that are called other places, and they're all the same. Don't you remember? We are the world, we are the children. Hello, Michael Jackson. No, but really, we're all the same. And the people who get the most results are the people who take the nonviolent route. It's just true. Yeah. Exactly. That's just humans being in the USA asses. So I met a cop actually who's my age. He's 35. I think like his birthday was in July, so it's probably like soon. And he's actually like a good cop. Like, he said that he's dealt with people like freaking out and like people going through like thinking about suicides and stuff, and he calms them down. He has like the good technique. But a lot of people, like, when they hear that he is a police officer, they automatically think that he is this like he's a pig, and that's absolutely not the case. Actually, my uncle was a lieutenant and he was in the police force for as long as I've been alive. So over 35 years, and he's like the best guy that I know. So, you know. Yes, he does. David White. He was in camp with me when I was in New York. Yeah, there are good cops and bad cops, but the thing is, they need to minimize the amount of mistakes that they're making. The police force. Issue resolved. Email anthrax. That sounds painful. Hey! Sandy's here. Thank you. It's been getting shorter and shorter. I butchered my hair, and then I was able to go to the barber shop that Eric goes to yesterday, and I got this pixie cut, and I'm loving it. So thank you. Yes, you can solve violence with peace. Don't you know anything about the 1960s? Like, the civil rights movement was all about peace and nonviolence, and they actually made changes in this world and gave people rights. I mean, I'm Caucasian, but I'm also female, so there's prejudices against females too. And then being prejudiced against Eric actually does make you prejudiced yourself. So it's like circular thinking. You ever visit a black neighborhood with bars on the windows and heavy screen doors? Those bars on the windows are not there to keep white people out. There's actually some places in the city. I think it's New York City, I'm not sure, or it's Chicago. I don't remember which one, but that they have spikes um on the ground so that people can't sleep on there, and I think that is disgusting. I think having spikes on the ground so people can't sleep there, like, that's not helping people. Feminism in its true form is not a cancer. That is inhumane, right? Like, it's been pretty heated up in here, Zandy. I'm glad you're here now. We can get a little bit more warmth in here, more feeling. It's been very FISE versus NETI. Feminism has the same basis as Black Lives Matters in a way. I mean, look, I consider myself to be a feminist. Like, I love Gloria Steinem. Like, I would love to spend a day with her. And she was a Playboy model. And she believes in, like, the working alongside with men, not against them. Yeah, they're deaf to the point of view. Exactly. Alan Bryan, they're closed minded. Some people are not going to change. I know PC is really at an absurd extreme, Brian. It's like so many jokes. Like, I watched The Office on Netflix, and I think to myself, like, I'm not really sure if this show would fly in today's times, and it's ridiculous because the jokes aren't even that bad. It's like we can't laugh at ourselves anymore. I don't even know the waves, okay? But I'm born 1985. I consider myself feminist because I am a woman and I love myself and I love other women. And I also love men. Thanks, Lamour. It is a sad thought about The Office, Shy T. Thanks, Sandy. The whole reason we are having these issues in each of our lives is the suppression of psychology and preventing the development of a better ideal. I mean, I hear you, but that's a message that a lot of people don't understand. Racism is it? Yeah, exactly. No one said it was Sandy. Sandy's right. He's definitely talking to his dad right now. Sounded like maybe someone else too. Same as Mike Jones. And his profile pic is Laker LeBron. This guy is not serious. Oh, I like LeBron James. I think he's born. He's me and LeBron James are around the same age.
They would love to hear it.
Yeah, we know he's a troll. Freddie Forgiato.
Yeah, probably Mike Jones is a troll. That's fine. But this is the thing about that kind of troll. And this is why they are persistent on trolling me. Because they can't stand the fact that even when they engage me entirely, the trolling backfires. Because all of a sudden I go from being kind of disengaged to very engaged, and they're saying wrong things. So I want to combat against them. So they elicit me to doing a lot of good argumentational work, and I appreciate that.
Zandy's here, and I told her I'm glad that she's here because we've been doing a lot of thinking, and I could use some feelers up in here.
That's true.
Except, I said it's been kind of an NE, like TISETE.
Let's get some FE, okay? A little bit of FE there.
FI. It's been an FISE shit going on. Yeah,
I'm gonna do a little FE, and then I'm gonna go chat with my dad a little bit more. He said some interesting things about Black Lives Matter. So I might wrap this up here pretty quick. Unless you want to keep.
I'd like to join.
All right, cool. Yeah, you want to head over there? I'll be right there.
Okay, what are you supposed to
I just want to say that a couple of things that my dad says basically he thinks that there's a capitalization by groups that want to agitate on this stuff. So it's like that there are groups that are like destabilizing stuff, and this is perfect for destabilizing because it's inherently divisive. But it's not necessarily the Black Lives Matter people who are doing the rabble rousing.
Right.
It's just that like people like Antifa see themselves as aligned with Black Lives Matter because they're both incredibly divisive group-based groups. No. It goes like this, Pedro Castro. Pedro Castro says the Bible's part of the religion control. No. Jesus controls the Bible. The Bible tells the Holy Spirit what God is doing. And the people who pray, that works as like a fuel injector and then out the top spurts the truth. That's how it works.
And I'm so upset that he missed the episode of Jesus coming out of the cave.
Pedro Castro, this is not a destabilized system. We know what destabilized systems look like. Go to Somalia and hang out for 6 months and come back and tell me how destabilized America is.
Yeah.
Or if you want real stability, why don't you go to North Korea? There's the other end of the spectrum. So in other words, you can't say that America's so far gone that it might as well go Mad Max, because it obviously isn't by comparing it against things that actually are. Jason Blood, I'm assuming the police are just doing a diversity outreach program where they want to make you feel welcome and make you feel safe.
Yeah.
They're staring at you because they're trying to imprint your face in their mind so they won't forget you, so next time they can remember to come up and greet you. Incredibly polite and considerate people. Hold on a second, Jason Blood. Do you mean that you're Japan's Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
I was a fan of the movie.
Look, what we need is a shift from a narrative of division to a narrative of caressing. Okay? So instead of slaying vampires in Japan, Jason Blood, next time perhaps of caressing them.
Yeah. They might like it.
Horseman board. Instead of scolding Pedro Castro next time, consider caressing him.
Yeah.
Lawnmower.
Like
Instead of doubting the mainstream media, consider fondling it.
A
Or
different
caressing
perspective.
Antifa isn't a group. Okay, that's fine. I'll accept that. I will say that I do believe there's a there are two fairly there are two ends of the spectrum that work towards destabilization. One is like the Minutemen kind of shit. Like, well, if you're not going to force those immigration laws, we're going to go down there and shoot the Mexicans. That's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is, well, if our rights aren't being respected, then we can just trash it. We're going to riot, and we it's our right to do it because you aren't respecting our rights. And so that's not an argument at all. Shut up. So it's both ends of the spectrum. Sorry, so go ahead.
I'm whatever Wednesday Addams is.
A lovely and popular woman.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, babe.
So it doesn't matter if they identify as a group or not. The Minutemen identify as a group, but even if they don't identify as a group, that spirit of politicization that says, I'm so devoted to anger in my politics that I want to go shoot Mexicans at the border to prove that my politics, to force everybody to attend to my politics, basically. But the problem is, as soon as you start violating people's rights or engaging in violence or trying to force through bad narratives or any of this shit, you are being wicked. You can't abdicate your moral obligation to be a moral agent. Pedro Castro, riots are not a voice. Riots are a technique poor people use to destroy their own city. That's not voicing anything. To say that burning down a neighborhood is a form of free expression is fucking insane. Rioting, look, the whole idea of a people, a group of people, a community, or whatever, that have a common interest and come together to take some sort of political action, if they're even a teeny little bit decent, but their core reason is we have to protect this community and we are protecting ourselves. What's ours is ours. And we have value and we don't want our community destroyed. That's why we're mad at somebody else, because presumably they're mistreating our community. If you're rioting and burning down buildings in your own community, then you have nothing to say. You have no class, no character, no legitimacy, and no respect for me at all.
Or the United States of America.
Well, come try to riot. No one's going to come try to riot in my neighborhood because, first of all, certainly people around here aren't going to riot even if we're really pissed about something. And it's also the case that if rioters were going to come try to destroy property around here, I mean, that's why the roof, that's why we have a roof, so we can lie on top of it and shoot people from it, you know? If they're going to be doing that sort of stuff, that's when they learn the natural consequences of violating people's rights. Whether it's you're a cop and you violated somebody's rights, or you're a protester and you violated somebody's rights, the natural consequence is you forfeit some, or in the worst case scenario, all of your rights. And you choose that with your behavioral decisions.
Hello, PNP.
Rioting, you don't riot against Hitler. Rioting is how people gang steal. They should call rioting gang stealing. Smash and grabs, shit like that, you know? Oh yeah. We're out tonight. We're gang stealing to make our point about how cops' criminality is bad. Okay.
Sounds like the vagina monologues.
Where did I put the fly swatter? I just had it. These flies are determined.
That's so weird. Hi! Oh, she said hi to Daddy.
Oh, my baby. I gotta go back. I have to go talk to my dad again. I got distracted. Let me just see him.
Can I go with you too?
Yeah. Okay, in the stream now. Thanks for all being here. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. And remember, no more racism.